Talked to people who were riding the train and then to get around checkpoints walked for 8 or 9 days in Mexico. So by the time they get here, they've often traveled for over a month.
Being identified as a migrant in Mexico from further south makes people vulnerable to extortion, kidnapping, and assault. I would say many of the women who have made it to the U.S.-Mexico border have experienced some form of traumatic violence during their journey. The goal is for people to have such a devastating and traumatic experience crossing that they are deterred from further attempts. It's very short-sighted, and it does not take into account the reasons that people are migrating north. A lot of the reasons that folks are coming from Central America have to do with U.S. economic and foreign policy, now and in the past. One of the things that happens under the auspice of democracy building with things like Plan Frontera Sur or the Merida Initiative is that the U.S. government is funding military and, by extension, paramilitary in torture techniques and repression of social movements. So not only is it keeping people from traveling north to escape violence, it's actually creating and perpetuating more violence.
If you look at the School of the Americas and the funding of the Mexican military to fight terrorism and to fight drugs, one of the groups, the Zetas, was initially an arm of the Mexican military, and then they decided to break off and kind of took over the drug trade in Texas and in Matamoros and Tamaulipas, and they've actually become one of the most violent gangs, and they were trained and funded and given guns by the U.S. government.
It's like a joint business venture between the U.S. government and cartels. They have similar interests, and they are exploiting vulnerable populations for money through different routes. Cartels make money because people have to contract with them now to cross, and then the U.S. government and private corporations make money by incarcerating undocumented people before deporting them. There's a group called the American Legislative Exchange Council comprised of Republican legislators and corporate interests. And one of the corporations involved in this group is the Corrections Corporations of America, one of the largest private prison groups in the country. They got together and they wrote SB 1070, which was the law in Arizona that got passed a few years ago that deputized police to check immigration status. We live in the border zone. Within 100 miles of the border, police and Border Patrol have always had discretion to do whatever they want. But this kind of took that experience with the borderlands and internalized it and expanded it to all of Arizona, and then with copycat laws that were passed to other parts of the country.
It makes the risk of deportation that much higher. So if, an employer refuses to pay their employee and they want to seek justice, it's really easy for an employer to just threaten calling ICE on them, and it creates an extremely, extremely vulnerable population. And that seems very intentional because it definitely benefits a lot of companies who are able to exploit this group of people that are now here.
I watched Troubled. We gotta stop it.
The colonial construct, widely known as Canada, is often depicted as US's mild-mannered and polite neighbors to the north.
Oh, hey there.
Do I know you from somewhere?
Oh, me? No.
Then what can I do for you, buddy?
Well, this is a mugging.
What?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. If I could just get that wallet right there.
Okay.
Keeping in line with this popular caricature, many well-meaning and progressive Canadians see their country as a bastion of multiculturalism and a welcoming home for refugees escaping war and persecution around the globe.
We have a celebration of diversity here that is just not found anywhere else. I mean, it's not really a question of the rules so much as it is the spirit of openness that we cherish, that I think we're finding ourselves increasingly alone in the world with that spirit.
But behind these self-righteous veneer lurks a more sinister reality of Canada's history and its place in the world. Putting aside the inconvenient facts that the country was founded on the genocide of the land's original inhabitants, a near blanket ban on non-European migration until 1967, and remains one of the only countries in the world to allow indefinite migrant detention, it's often overlooked that Canada only shares a land border with one country, the United States.
I would not build a wall on the Canadian border.
This particular quirk of geography has long granted the Canadian state near total control over who enters its borders and shielded it from mass influxes of irregular migration. Outside of a few historical examples, such as the Underground Railroad and Vietnam-era draft dodgers, or the more recent arrival in the summer of 2010 of a ship carrying 490 Tamil migrants on the shores of so-called British Columbia. But as the political atmosphere south of the border continues to worsen for undocumented migrants and anyone perceived to be a Muslim, Canada is witnessing a rise in refugees seeking to make use of its porous frontier to flee the overt hostility and repression of Trump's America.
This is the cardamom. Is a nice smile, nice, very, very nice with coffee. This is the knaf, and I will say it's Palestinian. He do that. I do that. Now, when you take the coffee, you can taste it. It's very, very, very nice. You like it, man. My name is Omar bin Ali. I'm from Palestinian. I left my country almost 10 years ago. I left my family, left my kids, left everything. Because maybe everybody here know what the occupation Israeli he do in Palestinian people. This is my son, Yazan. This is the small daughter, it's Tala. She is now 13 years, when I'm lived here is 3 years. This is my father, he's died in 2014. This is my mother, my love, my heart. She is die. She left me in September. I am not see her. I make refugee when I'm come in airport in 2008. After 3 years, I sit down with somebody in immigration, and in 20 minutes he refused me, and he sent it me after letter. He have around 38 reasons why he is refused me. 38, and he sit with me 20 minutes. I can't return because he know I have danger, very danger if I'm return. He no accept to bring my family here. Now, if you ask me really what I want, I am okay. I'm live here. I'm have safe, but my family it's not in safe. I need my family. I need my life. I need my wife.
We're at the Lacolle border crossing. This is the main border crossing between Quebec and the United States. This is Highway 15 on the Canadian side, and on the other side of the border crossing is I-87 that will take you down to Plattsburgh and Albany and New York City. And this is the border crossing you want to avoid if you want to make a refugee claim, because according to the Safe Third Country Agreement, if you're coming from a safe third country, which the United States is defined to be, if you try to make your refugee claim here at the Canadian border crossing, you will be turned back. And then if you try to make a regular crossing after that and they realize you try to make a regular one, you'll be forbidden from making a refugee claim. So there's an incentive, there's a logical, completely understandable reason why people will make irregular crossings. We're on the Quebec side of the Quebec-US border, and this is a place called Roxham Road. Roxham Road ends right there, and it continues right over that little hill on the US side. And it's a place that's internationally famous because people come here from the US in order to enter Canada irregularly and make refugee claims. Last time I was here, there was an abandoned baby carriage on the other side. You know, here you have some kids' clothing that was left. So this is about as far as I can go, because if I went further another step or two, I'd be on the American side, and that's technically illegal, and I'm not going to do that with the cops right there. People will come up this road, get off of whatever vehicle they're in or cab, and then come across.
Stop. If you cross here, you will be arrested. You speak French? You speak English?
Plattsburgh, New York is the main gateway, and you can get to Plattsburgh. It's a several hours ride from New York City. It also has an airport, so people can fly in there. And in Plattsburgh, you can take a cab here. There's nothing mystical or dangerous about it. There's thousands of miles of border. So we're here at a place where the RCMP has 24-hour surveillance. But there aren't walls, there aren't drones, there are motion detectors, but there's no way that this can be fully enforced. And if there are basic networks of mutual aid on either side, we can effectively render this border non-existent.
We are in Dundee, Quebec. The border is actually a few kilometers from here. Since January, there have been a lot of people, more than usual, that have been crossing here, and that a lot of people in the region here have seen, have helped, and it just so happens that a community group, which deals with a lot of the community groups in the area, were having a spaghetti supper. So we came down from Montreal to give them information. Here we have people that are fleeing persecution, people that are afraid for their lives, people that want to have a better life and want to participate in society, and they're being told that, sorry, if you want to come here, you can't come to our port of entry or to our airports. So for us, it was evident that not just making information for the people in this region, but also for the people crossing, to give them a little bit of a step up to what are the hurdles that they're going to have to face, and we would like for them to know about it before they come.
The attitude that our team takes regarding these people is if someone is here for nefarious purposes or to commit crimes, we want to do everything we can to find out before we give them to the Canada Border Services Agency.
So once they've crossed, as you said, once they've crossed, you can actively help. You can organize in your community to help people. And I think it's also important to say there's absolutely no reason to think that people who have crossed irregularly or illegally, however you want to put it, are any more dangerous than anybody in this room. And so even little gestures like putting a poster up that says welcome refugees, welcome immigrants, that makes a difference. It just sets a tone.
During the summer of 2015, the world watched in collective awe as tens of thousands of migrants arrived on the shores of Greece and began gradually making their way north, past heavily militarized borders in Macedonia, Serbia, Croatia, and Hungary, before ultimately reaching destination countries such as Germany and Sweden. At the time, sympathy for the refugees, many of whom were fleeing brutal wars in Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq, was high. But it wasn't long before popular opinion shifted. That year, during New Year's Eve celebrations, a spate of sexual assaults took place in cities across Germany, most notably in Cologne, where hundreds of women reported being attacked by groups of young men from the Middle East and North Africa. While it later emerged that some of these incidents were fabricated, such as an alleged mob attack by Syrian refugees in Frankfurt, the horrendous event of that night nonetheless cemented the racist caricature of the refugee in the popular consciousness and helped kickstart a furious anti-migrant reaction that was soon exacerbated by terrorist attacks in France and Belgium. In the months and years that have followed, the gates of Fortress Europe have slammed shut, and the Schengen Treaty guaranteeing free movement within Europe's interior borders has been effectively turned up, leaving thousands of migrants stranded in perpetual limbo. Responding to this dire situation, many anarchists and other activists have stepped up to try and help provide services and a sense of community to those who have been rendered stateless in a foreign land.
We had a tent camp in the beginning for 2 months in the outskirts of Amsterdam, where people were camping in the mud, in the rain, in bad tents, getting sick, without any assistance from the state, just from the neighbors and people like me being there to support them. So they had a hard time, they suffered, and then winter came and there was an empty church building that was facilitated by squatters in the neighborhood. And from there it took about 25 other buildings to give shelter to we are here.
We are here